If you are or have ever been a pretentious teenage writer, you will probably enjoy this book. I loved this book. Hey guys, it's Alex. I'm here with a book review, finally. It feels like it's been forever because the last one I did was Millennium last week, I think. But I actually read Millennium in about February or something. So it's been a while since I actually reviewed something I read recently. So today, I just finished Right Naked by Peter Gould. And I really liked this actually. This boy buys an antique typewriter. Actually, no. It's more pretentious than that. An old man gives the boy an antique typewriter. And the boy takes the typewriter to the woods, where he meets a girl who likes to write with an antique fountain pen. And if you just rolled your eyes, you're probably not gonna like this book. This book is very pretentious. And I say that from a loving perspective. I really did enjoy this book so much. It's young adult. It's about teenagers who write and do pretentious things in the woods together. Not sex, like legit pretentious things. I'm not kidding about that, even though it's called Right Naked. They do get naked and write, but it's in a pretentious way, not a sexual way. So pretentious. But pretentious in this, sweet and innocent Vermont way. I guess. Not in, a city, judgmental, pretentious way. Think they're better than everyone else or cooler or special. They're just, innocently pretentious. And it's kind of adorable. They're both idiot teenagers, I guess, would be a good way to describe it. And they're definitely portrayed as idiot teenagers doing pretentious things, but it's from a very nice perspective. There is no cynicism in this book. It's not making fun of these teenagers doing pretentious things. They do poke fun at themselves sometimes, especially Victor, who is the main character. He goes off to the woods and meets Rosanna. I keep wanting to say Roseanne, like Roseanne Cash, but no, it's Rosanna. It's 2 words. It's really sweet and just it's kind of romancy, I guess. I feel bad calling it a romance novel. I guess more it's a love story. It's a coming of age love story about these 2 pretentious teens who are just so innocent and adorable. And I keep using those words, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's just so good. It was so lovely to read, and there's nothing cynical in this book at all. It's just sweet and kind, and it was just a joy to read. It was one of those books where you're not gonna be unhappy at any point. Nothing really unhappy happens. It's not big on plot. So if you like really plot-heavy, plot-driven books, you're probably not gonna like this super much. It's more character-driven. And when I say more character-driven, I mean there's basically no plot. He meets this girl, and that is the extent of the plot. Nothing ever really happens. He just meets the girl, and they sort of have a friendship/romance thing going on. It honestly kind of reminded me of Written on the Body, if you've ever read that, which I actually have. This was not planned. I have Written on the Body behind me. It kind of reminds me of that. I don't know why I'm holding it up. You can see the comparison from the titles. But I read this last year, I think, sometime. It was assigned for a class, and I never read it. And then I got it last year, which is why my copy is beaten up. It was so... Both of these books were so descriptive. And so... focused on characters and the relationships, and there's basically no plot in either of them. And I just feel like this was sort of the young adult version of Written on the Body. The descriptions in this were so lovely. Even if you don't think you like this book, I recommend seeing if you can find it at the library and just flipping through a few bits just to read the descriptions, even if you don't read the actual book. 'Cause it was just, they were so interesting and unique, and they sounded like they came from teenagers, in all honesty. Like, Peter Gould really captured that voice well. The sort of 16-year-old writer. They come up with descriptions and comparisons that aren't bad. They're just, like, not what you would think. Like, there's one example of that. I forget which page it was on. Her eyes look dark, but not dark like some deep inviting pool. Dark like a curtain. Like, I really like that. Dark like a curtain. Because it's so descriptive and lovely. And you know exactly what he means when he says that. Like, but it's not something I would have ever come up with on my own. It's not something I would have ever imagined saying. But it works really well. And there was, or at least I think it does. Like, you might read that and be like, that sounds dumb. But in my opinion, it worked really, really well. And there were so many descriptions like that, just things I hadn't thought of, like, all the way through, like, any page, I could just flip through and find something that was just lovely, and there was so much description. Like, there was honestly so much description that, like, written on the body, I had to read this really slowly. It's only 250 pages, but it took me, like, 3 days to read when I was not reading anything else or doing anything. Like, I just read some of it every day, and you kind of have to read it slowly and savor it. If you read it quickly, you don't have time to take in all the descriptions and all the lovely things. Like, you have to take time to process them. And I really like that. I like that it forced me to slow down, and it forced me to think and, like, really focus on every line. Like, I love when books do that, because I read quickly, so a lot of the books I read, I just go through and, like, I routinely finish books in days. Like, I'll just sit down and read it mostly in one sitting. And this, you could do that, but it'd have to be a pretty long sitting. And, like, there were points where I just had to pause and just, like, close the book and put it in my lap and just think about what I'd read. And I really liked that. There were things I didn't like so much about it. Like, I didn't like the bits that were from Rosanna's perspective. And I didn't like her story. So, like, everything that she did, I wasn't super fond of. Which, there wasn't that much of it in here. But especially towards the end, there was more of it. And I understood its importance to the story. It just, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did Victor's perspective. Like, her bits just kind of felt like an interruption from the story that I loved so much. Like, the first third of the story, I adored. Like, I thought this was going to be, you know, one of my favorite books of all time from the first third. Like, I was recommending it to my friend already. I was like, this is amazing. Like, you have to read this. Like, I will loan you my copy. I don't know, the last 2/3, like, I really enjoyed the last 2/3. Like, don't be thinking that I was, you know, I loved the first bit and the last 2/3 sucked. Like, no, the last 2/3 were really good. They didn't hit me as hard as the first third did. Like, it was sort of like, it started off so great, and the end was just good. Like, Written on the Body I thought was good all the way through, and it kind of kept up what it was doing all the way through. I keep referencing that. Y'all should read that. I gave that book 5 stars. Like, I'm gonna reread it at some point, and I might do a review on it, just because I love it so much. But this, I felt like it lost a little bit of the magic. Not much. Like, I'm still giving it 4 stars. Like, this is a 4-star read. I highly recommend you read it. Like, even if you don't think you would like it, because they're super pretentious, and there's, like, an insta-love thing going on, which there sort of is, but at the same time, it's sort of iffy. Just give it a chance. Just because it's so pretty and so beautifully written, and this might be the only novel he's written. I think Peter Gould writes plays. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's from Vermont. Like, just based on how important Vermont is to the story. The insta-love bit. Like, there is a little bit of insta-love. And by a little bit, I mean there's straight up insta-love. But I feel like it's done more in the author is aware of what he's doing. It's like a teenage thing. Like, these 2 vaguely lonely teenagers who've never had any real close connections meet someone that they really get along with. And they sort of mistake it for insta-love. You can read into it what you want. It's not necessarily they met and are madly in love. Like, you can you can read many things into it. Because insta-love really bugs me too, and it didn't so much in this book. I did love this. Like, it was a 4-star read. Like, I really, really enjoyed this. The first third was my favorite by far. Like, the beginning, like, I was about 3 pages in, and I was convinced this was going to be a 5-star read, and then the ending kind of let me down a little bit. The first third of the book was by far my favorite, and the ending wasn't, well, not the straight ending, but like the last 2/3 or so wasn't as good. Like, it wasn't my favorite, and I don't know, like, I still enjoyed them. They were still good. It was just the difference between the beginning was amazing, and then the rest of the book was just good. Something starts off so strong, and you just adore it so much. It kind of disappoints you a little when the ending doesn't finish as strong. That's sort of what sticks with you. But this was a 4-star read. I do recommend you go read it. This would annoy a lot of people. Like, I genuinely do, just between the story that Rosanna tells and the pretentiousness of both of them, and the insta-love that's sort of insta-love but not really. Like, I would forgive that in this book. And the whole Vermont running through the woods. I feel like a lot of people would just not be able to stomach this. But I did. I really enjoyed it, and I think people should give it a chance. Like, just for the description, for the writing, just try. There's not a lot of plot here, and it's a short read, but it was worth it for me, at least. I did enjoy it so much, and I feel like other people would enjoy it too. Like, I feel like maybe half of people wouldn't like it at all, but like, it's pretty clear early on. Like, there's this one thing that the main character, Victor, does. He doesn't use capital I's. Like, I don't know if you can see this. I can't actually see my camera, so I'm hoping you can see this. He doesn't use capital I's, but only when referring to himself. If Rosanna says something in dialogue and starts like, I want to go do this, it will be a capital I. But when he's using it to refer to himself, it's always lowercase. It was so, like, cute. Like, pretentious, yes. Like, that's super pretentious. But in a cute way. Like, it's not in the sort of judgy, like, I didn't read it in the sort of judgy, pretentious way. It was just a thing you do when you're a teenager and you're kind of stupid and you're kind of trying to make yourself different and figure out who you are and try new things. And it's the kind of thing I would have done when I was a stupid, pretentious teenager. And that's sort of how the author presents it. Like, not as a this is a good thing to do or this is a bad thing to do, just that he's a kid doing kid things, writing with lowercase i's. I just liked that little detail. It was such a small thing that really had no bearing on the plot, but it was just so real. Everything about this book was so good. But I recommend you read it. 4 stars. 4 stars is very positive from me. It's not my favorite. Like, if it had all been like the first third, I would be throwing this at you through the screen. Like, this would be through my camera in your homes so you could read it. But 4 stars is still really good. I'm going to reread this at some point. Like, maybe not soon, but like in a year or two when I've pretty much forgotten this, I'm going to pick it up and read it. And I will probably enjoy it just as much then. But check it out. Read it. Even if you only like flip through it and look for the awesome descriptions that I loved. They were so unique and original, and they all worked so well. But yes, highly recommend. Y'all should check it out. That was my review for Right Naked. So basically you should read it if you at all can stomach pretentious things. I highly recommend it. 4 star. 4 star rating from me. Bye guys.